It's come back, hopefully.
All right, so we won't take up too much time and we'll get straight down to talking to our 5 dynamic lady authors. Once again, I welcome all of you very warmly onto the show. The first time we've had lady authors. So there's a lot of excitement amongst our viewers. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So Rita Chablani, now she has already authored 3 books. The Joys of Yoga, Despite Odds, Cross Connections, and her third book, it was launched at the Pune International Literary Festival. She has taught in embassies and consulates across the world, and she was married to a UNICEF officer. She is a yoga teacher, and she's attached to 2 NGOs, and she teaches underprivileged children. Now, Rita, from this world of English honors, of William Wordsworth, William Shakespeare, and also teaching students, when you have to transfer the knowledge from the teacher to students who come from a cross-cultural background. And how did you do it? And how did you write this book, which was your favorite story? Please share with the viewers, Rita.
Yes, good evening. This has been quite a journey. Our writers group itself are getting together. I think it was destined to be. And when I shifted to Pune and I contacted my writing buddies, my good friends, and we got together on 9th of February 2009. I remember the date at my place. And we meant business, of course. We were not a book club. We were going to be a writers group. And we were going to write, we were going to critique, and we didn't mind the critiquing. And we all got on board. And very soon, we started writing, collecting our stories. And each one had a distinct style. And I'm proud to say that we are together and we published a book. So color me a rainbow, and we are a rainbow, actually. So my most favorite story, I think one cannot say which story is your favorite. It's difficult to choose, but the story that spoke to me the most was The Chrysalis, because I think it resonates with most people. It resonates with women, because most of our lives, whether it's rural India that I saw with my husband who worked with UNICEF, or I met ladies even in urban areas, I think most of our lives we have been indoctrinated and conditioned by society's rigid rules of do's and don'ts. You're a good girl, you must do this, you should not do this. And in some way, we all feel encaged. And then Seema, the heroine, gets married, the protagonist, and the boundary gets married to Akash. And Akash means the sky, unhindered, and she felt her life was going to change. But did it change? No, because she remained the boundaried. And there was this Lakshman Rekha she could not cross. So one day, out of the blue, she watches this cocoon in a garden across the road, and she goes and stands there with a little boy, and emerging out of the dark cocooned space, there stepped forth a beautiful, gorgeous butterfly. So within each one of us is that butterfly that is waiting to fly unhindered, break free into the open skies. That is why it resonated with me when I selected Seema as my protagonist. And I think it resonates with readers. And Break Free is the special for me, Anjali.
Yes, that was so beautiful. We were all listening to your story enraptured. It was so lovely. I'm sure it must have been a very special experience getting your friends, 5 of them together and forming this writers group and penning your thoughts, stories, creating a book. What was that like?
Oh, well, I returned from Chicago. I stayed in the Windy City for 10 years, but my
Yes.
heart was in India, in Pune. And when we returned here, the first thing I did when we struck anchor was look around for my close friends,
Yes.
talk to them, and you can see they are here. Put them together. I mean, I invited them, talked to them about this idea because there was one such group I was a part of. I had founded in Chicago with American authors, and it was very successful.
Yes.
And they went on to become published authors, those American women. So I said, yes, we can do it too. So we met at my home the first time and we mooted the idea. Everybody was on board and they all wanted to write and they were serious about it. So that's
Yes.
how the whole idea, it was each one's cooperation, each one's enthusiasm, and it soon became a sisterhood. And from sisterhood, it turned into something else. I think that is the secret. I think all of
That's right.
them will agree. It is our secret. It's that sisterhood. We may have our different personalities, but then don't people have different personalities in a family? But we all care for each other and we all want to write. I think that was most important. So we
Yes.
have really, the proof is there. The proof of the pudding is in the eating.
Eating.
Color me a rainbow. I think we all there. We all
Yes.
on board.
That's amazing. You had to actually get down to doing it and everybody did it. So
Yes.
that was lovely. So now, Rita, you have already got 3 books under your belt. You have authored them. They've been received so well. And now, for our viewers, there'll be very exciting news that your 4th book is going to come out. I wish you great success. But to whom or to what would you attribute your writing genes?
Well, to one person who, my father, my late father, he passed in when he was 42 years old, and he was a master of English literature, and he had started writing, and then circumstances took him away, and something within me was always egging me on, spurring me on to write.
Yes.
And so in Chicago, when I started writing for this critique group, I realized I had lots of stories to tell. And when I started writing, it was not me, it was not my words. I couldn't recognize them many times. They were what my father used to talk. And so I feel it's in my genes, and I've dedicated each of my book to my father. I think he is responsible for all the stories I tell, the inveterate storyteller I am.
That's so touching, Rita. Really, our parents are always with us. But thank you so much for sharing parts of your life with you and the readers and our audiences and us. So there was a beautiful synergy over there. Thank you so much, Rita.
Thank you, Anjali.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Welcome. And Jayashree Dhillon. Now, she has a postgraduate diploma in journalism, and she has done a lot of work in the media sector. She has been in advertising, in television. She has been an editor on a magazine. And also that Jayashree, she had worked for ELTIS, which is the English Speaking Institute of Symbiosis, and taught in NIE, which is an initiative of the Times of India Group. She has been writing articles, and very recently, one of her stories, the Amal Tas tree, got picked up by an app called the MAPA app, which is a children's storytelling app. So, Jayashree, you've been an army wife. You had such beautiful experiences traveling all over India. and all the glorious stories of the Indian Armed Forces, places where others cannot really visit? And have you been able to incorporate any of these army experiences into your stories?
Yes, thank you, Anjali. A very kind introduction, I must say. Thank you very much for inviting us here. Yes, I am an army wife. I'm very proud of it. And this, all that Rita told you, we all share her feelings about the book. And I have written 5 stories in this particular book, The Color Me a Rainbow. And some of my stories, though not all, some of them do borrow from life in the army.
Right.
Yes, they do.
I think that's really wonderful because it adds a different flavor every time. Everyone has their own style of writing, and we all love to hear that. And then, out of all the stories you wrote in this book, Color Me a Rainbow, which one is your favorite?
Well, there's a story which is closest to my heart, my favorite one, in fact, from the book, which is called The Rajkumari's Secret. That really is my favorite story. I love it.
Yes. And why? There has to be some deep connection with the story, right? That you wanted to share it with the audiences, reading public.
Yes. You see, I'm very fond of traveling. In any case, as an army wife, one does travel a lot. But besides that, on holidays, so this story is actually, the background is that we were traveling some years ago through Rajasthan on a holiday. And the travel agent had booked us for one night in a hotel, now converted into a hotel, which was actually a 14th century fort. And we were looking forward to it, never been in a fort before to live there. And we reached the place. There were just 4 of us, another couple with us, and my husband and I. And when we reached this place, that fort was actually in the middle of nowhere, looming up into the sky with miles of lush green fields around it, and thick stone walls, and also very scary looking stone steps. So a bit apprehensive, but we got inside the fort and it was very well decorated. The rooms were very well decorated and they'd got an atmosphere of old Rajasthani, flavor to the whole thing. And we enjoyed that. It was a very good Rajasthani meal served after that. And but as night fell and the darkness took over, there were very few guests that night, surprisingly. Besides us, there were just a handful of some foreigners who came in late. And they ate early and they disappeared into their rooms, which left just the 4 of us there in the garden. And we decided to go back to our rooms then. And there were these huge stone steps, very menacing. We sort of staggered, held each other's hands because there were no railings, there were no banisters. It was really the fort. And we clambered up slowly. The lighting was extremely poor. And I think they did that on purpose to make you feel as if you are staying in a fort which has very poor lighting and no electricity of those days. So we clambered in. And as we were going up the steps, you still had the dark, looming ramparts around you and poor lighting, very poor lighting. You couldn't see where you were stepping. And there were these sounds of the night insects, which we're not really used to hearing in a city. And we were real city dwellers, all 4 of us. And there were also the sudden flapping of wings of birds, which would fly out of the turrets of the fort. So we got inside our rooms, which are again very well decorated, but it was a very unsettling night for me, very uneasy, very eerie, very strange. I spent an uncomfortable night, to tell you very honestly. Being city dwellers, we're not used to poor lighting. I mean, when the lights go and you put a candle, you're always sort of hoping the lights come back. But these hearing of birds flapping. So out of this unease, this strange feeling, emerged my story. And I don't want to tell you about the story because I would like people to read it in our book. It's my favorite story. But that was that uneasy night.
That's lovely. I've read the story, and sometimes you're reminded of all these intrigues and plots of the royal families of 500 years ago.
Yes.
All those, cloak and dagger techniques. So it has been really beautifully written.
Thank you. Thank you. Your screen has frozen, Anjali. Your screen just froze, Anjali. I hope you can hear us still.
Yes. And can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
And
Yes.
is the screen started now?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right. So would you like to share with us any other story that you wrote in this book?
Yes, this is another story which is close to my heart. And like you mentioned about the army life, some of my stories do borrow from our experiences in the army. So this is it's an actual thing which has happened. Of course, I won't mention names, but the story is about a young woman who's had an unhappy marriage.
Okay.
And but for her, luckily, she finds love and happiness again. And she meets a person
Yes.
who puts her past behind her, who puts her past behind her,
Yes.
and they get together to move forward to a new beginning. So the story is, it can happen anywhere in the country, in the world, but it's close to my heart because the story ends on a positive note.
Oh, okay. Okay. I think it's called Give Love a Second Chance. Is that
Yes,
right?
that's right. Give love a second chance because she'd had an unhappy marriage, but she was happy now because she met this guy. So it is a second chance at love, and she was lucky.
Okay. I think everyone deserves a second chance. Thank you so much, Jayshree. Thanks a
Thank
lot
you. Thank you.
for sharing with us. And Shehnaz. Now, Shehnaz has finished her education in Bombay. She was in the Walsingham School and then she completed her schooling in the Queen Mary School. She went on to doing graduation in St. Xavier's College and then she got a postgraduate diploma in business administration from the Xavier's Business Management Institute. Shehnaz worked in her father's automobile business and about 30 years ago she shifted to Pune. And over here, she joined the Mohalla committee and she wrote lots of articles to the local authority as well as the government. And she joined the book club at the Pune Club in the United Services Library. So Shehnaz, her passions are reading, writing, and music. And now, Shehnaz, I want to ask you, I was so deeply caught up with your delightful stories because you have showcased the nuances and the shades of being a Parsi person. You know, they're such a loved and respected community, and their complete archetypal behavior, the way they respond, their rituals, their marriages, how they behave, and we know exactly what's happening when we read about the families, you know, the aunts, the uncles, and how they try to influence little children, but the younger generation has their own mind. So, where did you get so much of inspiration for the Parsi community? Please tell us, Shanaz.
Thank you, Anjali. I am privileged to being born into this illustrious community and being a Parsi myself. I wanted to incorporate and have incorporated Parsi characters and the typical, as you say, Parsi Panu mannerisms into some of my stories. The expression of my own life experiences were melded with snippets of others and imagination, humor, and dreams of what could have been. And the last story in my book, Ketlo Majano Chokro, which literally means what a nice boy, depicts a somewhat humorous description of a young Parsi woman of my generation searching for a suitable life partner. These type of issues were experienced not only by me personally, but lots of other young Parsi women I knew. And we regaled each other with all our escapades and experiences over lots of cups of Parsi tea, snacks, and howls of laughter. After all, our motto is eat, drink, and be merry. From a birthday party to a
Yeah,
Puneri party.
that's really beautiful. So I've been asking everyone, uh, you've got one favorite story, and what about the second one, Shanaz? Out of all,
Well,
yes.
well, one which I identify with is what's his or her name? I can't remember. I'm plead guilty. I remember all sorts of trivial details, but I forget the names. I've been in quite a pickle sometimes. But another story which is very close to my heart is Off with the Old and On with the New. It's about Preeti, a young widow previously married to an alcoholic husband, who finally casts off all her guilt, shame, her sense of loss, grief, followed by her eventual relief when she eventually does so. She regains a new sense of purpose and a reason to live again, as she would like to, in a new avatar. Thank you, Anjali.
Thank you so much, Shanaz. And I hope that you're going to continuously go on writing so that we are waiting in deep anticipation for your next book, all five of you. I'd love to hear, some of my best friends since my childhood have been Parsis. So I was so completely mesmerized with your lovely stories. Thank you so much, Shanaz.
I'm delighted to hear that. Thank you, Anjali.
Thanks a lot. And Manjula. For our viewers, I must tell you that she's a very adventurous person. She loves to try new and different experiences. She is at present an editor with the Yoga Institute in Mumbai, as well as the Vishwakarma publications in Pune. She writes content on a virtual platform for children's textbooks. And a lot of her children's stories have been published in the children's world. Manjula, she loves to do meditation, yoga, Reiki, and she plays Indian classical music. There was a time when Manjula and myself, we were both giving a classical music exam. And we were so mesmerized with the sitar that she was playing that we were staring as if we were in a zone which was not in this planet. So you are so talented, Manjula. Your first, yes, Manjula.
I think you may have confused me because I like to sing. I think sitar is not my must be somebody else.
Please excuse me. Was it your daughter who was playing the sitar?
No,
Okay.
It was one of the other people there.
All right. But I remember that we were together in that.
Yes, very much so.
Experience.
Very
Please
much.
excuse me over there.
Yeah.
Manjula, your story, one of them, a tribute to Isa. It's so completely, something so different, something so moving. The heart starts aching when you read a story like that. So what inspired you to write it?
So this story, believe it or not, was inspired by my son's project when he was in class 8.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we Indians, we are so proud of the Taj Mahal. But what we may or may not know is that after it was completed,
Yes.
Shah Jahan had all the workers' hands chopped off.
Oh, God.
The head architect, Isa Khan, knew what was coming in store for him.
Yes.
So when the soldiers came to arrest him, asked that he be left alone in the Taj for a short while.
Right.
And there he left his mark in the Taj, something which we've not been able to figure out even now.
Oh, okay.
So in a sense, this story is a fictionalized account of the suffering and the injustice of Shah Jahan's decision. And also, I like to think that this story, a tribute to Isa, is a tribute to all the unsung heroes in India's rich cultural past.
Yes, that's right. And how cruel is that?
I know.
How cruel, because no one will replicate something which the Raja has told them. Emperor has told them, right?
Yes.
And then, of course, this was such a lovely and a moving story. You really
Thank you.
Impacted your readers over there. Now, would you like to share another story with us, Manjula?
So, just as all children are equally dear to talk about today is called Ashtami.
Okay.
It's set in Calcutta on the 8th day of Durga Puja.
Right.
And on that day, I feel there's a certain magical quality in the air with the brightly lit pandals, the beating of dhols, the smell of incense.
Yes.
You actually visualize the goddess coming out of her abode, seated on her mount, which is a lion, looking out for evildoers. So in this story, a corrupt businessman is traveling by train because he's very scared of flying.
Yes.
He finds himself in a first-class compartment in a train. The only other occupant is a young college girl. Now, for the reader, it could be somewhat predictable up to a certain part.
Yes.
But then there's a very unexpected twist, and the hunter becomes the hunted.
Oh, okay.
And as we go to the end, again, there is a twist. And the reader says, oh my God, what happened? So if you all want to know what happened, pick up the book. It's available on Amazon and Flipkart, and see what the story is all about.
Yes, that's amazing. It's really nice because, of course, most stories are pretty predictable. So there's something that we need to find out for ourselves. I think that's so beautiful, Manjula.
Thank you.
But there was one more thing that really impressed me, intrigued me, was that the writings of Shakespeare, and you made a spoof on it. I think first time ever. I've hardly ever read anyone making a spoof on Shakespeare.
Yeah, so Shakespeare is one of the brightest stars in English literature.
Yes.
So much so that even 400 years after his death, his plays are an intrinsic part of school and college curriculum. So in this story, I picked up a few well-known quotes of Shakespeare,
Yes.
placed it in an Indian setting, wove a story around it, and you have a delightful read.
Yes. I think that was so beautiful. So completely
Thank you.
delightful. That's right.
Thank you.
Manjula, do you still practice your singing?
I try.
Yes, I think that's really wonderful. We'll all get together another time and have a
Yes.
performance.
Definitely.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank you.
Manjula. Thanks a lot. And Mala has a personality which is full of episodes, anecdotes, happenings, occurrences. So her personality has got, what we call a complete and a comprehensive personality. She has taught in schools pan India. She was in Dehradun, and that was a girls' school, right? Belham Girls' School. And she ended her teaching career in J.N. Petty School in Pune. She has done corporate training for humongous corporate giants such as HAL and the Kirloskar Group of companies, among others. She does yoga, and she is a Sanskrit scholar. Very close to her heart, she is a member of the Pune Women's Council and also for the National Society of Clean Cities, the Pune sector. She does a lot of hands-on work in tree plantation and garbage disposal. And so with so many different activities, hobbies, and things that are very close to your heart, which you have told us about, Mala, we would like to hear about your stories in this book. Please, will you share with us?
Certainly, Anjali, it will be a pleasure. Though these are short stories, a great deal of thought goes into each one. The writer obviously picks up threads of experiences from her own life,
Yes.
but it is woven with some magical threads of, imagination, and maybe adds on some fiction, and we make a thought-provoking tale.
Right.
So a lot of my life has been spent in Bombay, and I have ridden this, lot of buses and things like that. But my favorite ride was always bus number 123, which goes along Marine Drive. I hope you've all been on one of those. But I wove a very simple story around it. It started off with a young girl who works as an assistant in a medical clinic, and she travels to work by bus, obviously. Then a disturbing element enters. She sees somebody at the clinic who has bruises across somewhere on her face, some on her neck, and she makes the perfectly reasonable assumption, which many people would, that she has an abusive husband. But then, as she is traveling back home on the bus one day, she glimpses something from the bus window. She looks out, and you can see into the first floor flats along Marine Drive. And she sees something that chills her to the bone. And when she runs there and she finds out what is happening, it's a strange story, As summed up by me, Kismet. when I did a book discussion there, and I was surprised to see how many people identified with it.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. True life experiences. Fantastic. And you've also written a story, Reveling in the Rain. It's unusual. Could you tell us about it, please?
Yes, certainly, Anjali. Well, it's the story of a small town girl, an engineer, who comes to the big city, Mumbai, in order to, make her career. And naturally, she feels very out of place and she's unhappy. Many nights she's crying herself to sleep because, I mean, she's, traveling on these crowded trains and working very long hours, and there's nobody with her. So there are many things which upset her. But she's determined to go on because she can't go back and confess that she wasn't able to make it,
Yes.
or that she can't do her career because obviously she doesn't have that kind of opening in her own small town, right? And so this story has a lot of Hindi in it, Hindi words, because she's from a small town, so she will be more comfortable speaking like that, right?
Yes.
And one day during the monsoon, you know what Bombay rains are like. She
Yeah.
experiences that torrential rainfall where all the streets get flooded, and it is totally, impossible to go back. So she has to spend the night at the office with her colleagues and have bun maska and cha from the local Irani restaurant. And of course, she's very terrified in the beginning, but slowly she develops the never say die spirit of the Mumbaikar. And of course, there is a little romance in it, just to me. I mean, that's what keeps us all happy, isn't it?
Yes, of course. Of course, that's right. We are true romantics at heart. Well, what a beautiful story. Actually, I've read the book, I've enjoyed all the stories, and it's been so fascinating. Now, for our viewers, we have put together a collection of pictures, and I'm going to request Jayashree to please talk about them to us. So let's start looking at them. And in the end, there is a picture which Mala has shared with us. Okay, so is it visible now?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. So let's start having a look at it. Yes, Jayashree, would you like to take over?
All right. So this, of course, the first slide is showing us the title of our lovely book, Color Me a Rainbow, and the names of us 5 authors. All of us have just spoken to all of you. So, and the rainbow is very nicely, all the colors are showing at the bottom left corner. To give the idea that all 5 of us, we have different personalities, different styles of writing, but we all came together to bring out this really beautiful book. Each story is so good, and it's a pleasure to read that book. We've had very good feedback from anyone who's read it. In fact, this afternoon, I got a message from a good friend of mine saying that she's just read a story, finished reading a story, which is there in our book, but I didn't talk about it today. So it feels very good, because I think for a writer, the reward is always somebody appreciating your work, your writing.
Yes. Enjoying.
So could we have the next slide, please, Anjali?
Yes, sure, of course, sure.
Yes. So this, of course, are copies of our book. Very pretty cover. And Shanaz had given the original, the sketch of the rainbow. And then with everyone putting their ideas and Mala working on the final design, this was what it came through. It's a lovely idea. And you can see the rainbow, the copies of it, and this young person there stretching out, looking at the sky. Something has happened, Anjali.
Yeah, just a minute. Huh? I don't know why they get,
Okay.
yes.
So anyway, so it's a beautiful cover for a beautiful book. And Mala had a big role in designing it along with Shanaz's initial sketches. She used to sit with the graphic artist in the publisher's office, and that's what you can see that. And all of us used to put our heads together for it. And this is what the final cover was. The rainbow, the feeling of freedom, and this girl stretching out with the sea in the background and the waves coming in. It's lovely.
I'm sure that so much goes into a book before it actually comes out.
Oh, yes.
And what's this?
It says creation of a cover. So I think Mala will have to talk about it. I can come back.
You know, when I sent the details to the graphic designer, I sent the rainbow and I sent this little girl. That look on her face of facing the sun and, you know, the obvious feeling of freedom which it shows. And I said, I want something like this. So this is the first, the small young girl is what I sent. And as you can see on the left, she has tried to design that girl on our cover. And it went to many avatars, and then you got the final.
Look at this lovely picture. What's this about?
Yes. So this picture is the day our book was launched, Anjali.
Yes.
At the PILF, which is the Pune International Literary Festival.
Right.
It's an annual event, but no thanks to the they couldn't have it. But a moment on writers and to my at the PILF.
Must have been an exhilarating experience.
It was.
Right? Till first book?
Yes.
Oh. Look at you all.
Yes, another lovely picture with 5 of us all dressed up and happy smiles all around, because this was at a very lavish dinner party that was thrown at a well-known hotel in Pune for all the visiting authors, not only just from India, but also international authors. So this is a picture of 5 of us, but it was a lovely evening because you get to meet writers from different parts of the world with their different ideas, different books, and it was a lovely evening. So we treasure that evening in our memories.
Yes, and you must have met a lot of authors, no, like-minded people.
Yes.
And this picture is really very nice.
Yes, this is another picture. Our book was already launched, but there is a cultural center called Gyan Adab, which is based in Kalyani Nagar, Pune. And again, because of COVID, all the physical activities have stopped, but we were lucky that this happened before. So this was another lovely evening where 5 of us writers were present, and we were on the stage. Each of us spoke about the book, and we'd invited our friends and other people who are into reading. So they were the audience, and we talked about our book. So this was like another similar book launch, but the official launch had already happened at PILF. But another memorable evening.
Lovely. Yes, I know. I'm also a member of Gyan Adab.
That's right.
And now, Mala, can you just throw some light on this lovely picture?
Yes. So when I went to San Francisco after the book was launched, I found there was a book club there. A friend of mine decided to throw a party, and she invited all her book club members. These are only the women. All the men are all behind somewhere, having a drink, no doubt. And so there I spoke about my book, and they all discussed many of the stories. They were very thrilled about the stories. Many of them are Indians from who have gone abroad. They're the first generation Indians, and they have settled in USA. Several of them are from IITs and very prestigious institutes from here. And so as you can see, there were about 7-8 couples, and I am holding on to the book and very proudly presenting it, and everybody purchased it in dollars over there.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow, that's so completely amazing, and it's lovely to hear that. Really lovely. So this, it's been such lovely live pictures. We can see you all feeling such excitement when the first copy of your book came out, and so lovely to see all of you so happy writing, launching your book. That was so nice. I want to is my me by IAI3. I'm so happy and thankful to come. I express my gratitude. We will see you on this show again. Thank you so much. It was so rewarding.
Thank you for inviting us. It was a pleasure being here. Really a pleasure being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Anjali.